In 1980, a case was opened and closed ongoingly for over 40 years. Skeletal remains were found, and no identification, suspect, or even knowledge of the crime itself was concluded until the 21st century. In this case report, we will observe the investigation of the 1980 Rapides, Louisiana crime and report on how important facial reconstruction can be when all evidence leads to a dead end. On November 5, 1980, a hunter found unidentified skeletal remains in a wooded area in Rapides, Louisiana. The only objects on scene that could be of use to help identify this individual was a clump of brunette hair and a pair of socks. To identify these remains, forensic anthropologists must be consulted to receive any information related to identification. Pictured here is a newspaper clipping of the search and seizure of the unidentified skeletal remains. In 1990, following the complications of identifying the remains, especially when no missing persons report resembled the biological profile, the Louisiana State University Forensic Anthropology and Computer Enhancement Services, also known as FACES, was assigned to this specific case to achieve identification on the unidentified individual. The examination of the skeleton itself, specifically the skull, concluded that this individual had to have been dead for 2 months to 2 years. The decomposition process weighed heavily on this wide timeline. During the examination of the skeleton, this individual was estimated to be a female, 15 to 19 years of age. The height was estimated to be around 5'1", 5'5", and received and still consisted of several dental fillings. The skeleton experienced the decomposition process, and it was concluded that the stage of decomposition was in the dry stage, where skin, hair, nails, and loose teeth were separated from the body. Because of unmistakable evidence of decomposition, the exact timing of death was deemed hard to conclude and finalize. In 2019, a group of 5 forensic anthropologists of LSU FACES was able to successfully identify the female after 39 years. Using the female's skull, the anthropologists were able to craft facial reconstruction using clay to further the investigation on identifying the female. From this reconstruction, a woman from Pineville, Louisiana, recognized the similarities between the unidentified female and Donna Gayle Brazzell. Donna happened to be this woman's granddaughter. From DNA testing of the skeleton and grandmother, the individuals were considered a match and related. This individual, found in 1980, was identified nearly 40 years later as Donna Gayle Brazzell. Actual photograph of Donna Gayle Brazzell is pictured on the left, and facial reconstruction created by FACES that was used to positively identify the remains found in Rapides, Louisiana, is on the right. With the help of a positive identification, law enforcement officials reopened the case for more investigation in search of suspects or new knowledge that could have been more accurate with a positive identification. With extraordinarily little knowledge of the crime itself, law enforcement officials were theoretically going into this case almost blind. Under the authority of the Rapides Parish Sheriff's Office, Leo Laird, age 64, and Gary Joseph Heyman, age 54, were arrested and charged with first-degree murder, first-degree rape, and aggravated kidnapping. Laird was arrested in August 2019 on the charges of murdering Donna Gayle Brazzell and was held on a $1 million bond with no bail attached to his name. Heyman was and still is currently serving a 49-year prison sentence for kidnapping, robbery, and public bribery. Heyman will be transferred from Avoli's Correctional Center in Cotton Port to Rapides Parish to face the recent charges of murdering Donna Gayle Brazzell. During the crime, Leo Laird was 25 years old, while Gary Joseph Heyman was 15 years old. Keep in mind that Donna Gayle Brazzell passed away at this time at 18 years old. In 2021, nearly 2 years after the arrest of Laird and Heyman, the District Attorney's Office decided to dismiss the charges against Laird, which established first-degree murder, first-degree rape, and aggravated kidnapping. Laird was considered a suspect in 2014 when Heyman, who was already in prison on other charges, came forward with added information on the case in exchange for Heyman himself to be transferred to another prison. Heyman was and still is known for providing false testimony. So, given the little evidence against Laird that was not just Heyman's testimony, the district attorney had no choice but to dismiss Laird's charges, as there was no physical evidence other than the victim's remains, and the coroner could not identify a cause of death. Heyman is still serving time at Louisiana State Prison, according to online records. The district attorney's office statement quotes, "In criminal cases, time is never on the side of the prosecutor. At trial, the district attorney's office must prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. However, with the passage of time, witnesses disappear, memories fade, and leads evaporate. These limitations are never more acute than in the prosecution of a cold case. The case against Leo Laird for the murder of Donna Gayle Brazzell is more than 40 years old. There is no physical evidence other than the victim's remains, and the coroner cannot identify a cause of death." During this investigation, in terms of the suspects, justice in finding and formally charging a killer is extremely hard and nearly impossible to conclude. But one good thing came of this case: a positive identification using facial reconstruction. This photograph here demonstrates how facial reconstruction looks when building an accurate estimation of facial features to help identify unidentified skeletal remains. Because of the information and knowledge forensic anthropologists have surrounding the skull, specifically being able to visualize facial features based on fragments of the skull that may be prominent or not, facial reconstruction can be incredibly useful and eye-opening. The main objective of facial reconstruction is to identify current unidentified cranial remains and to reconstruct cranial remains as a sculpture or drawn image in the most accurate manner possible. A forensic artist may be able to provide a decent estimation of face approximation, but they should always work with forensic anthropologists as well as a forensic pathologist and a forensic odontologist to conduct a final analysis of facial approximations. According to FACES, using the victim's skull and a series of medical techniques to determine things like the width of a nasal opening or where the eyes sit, a clay model was crafted of what the victim may look like. The result might not be perfect, but that is not the point. The image is only meant to jar someone's memory. Because of this technological advancement that allows for more information to be processed, Donna Gayle Brazzell got her name back. From the district attorney's standpoint, it is important to recognize that in terms of cases that extend beyond time, witnesses disappear, memories fade, and leads evaporate. In this case, the only evidence was Brazzell's skeletal remains, clothing, hair, as well as the coroner being unable to provide a cause and manner of death, which led to the case being dismissed and ultimately cold in terms of who really murdered Donna Gayle Brazzell. Although justice may not have been served in formally charging suspects of Brazzell's death, FACES was able to provide justice in allowing Donna Gayle Brazzell to be identified, and even granting relatives of Brazzell to come to peace in knowing she was found. Thank you for listening.